I wanted to talk about the Versa dual driver in-ear monitors by Alclair that are custom, of course. And really, to put it in context, I'll tell you why I got these or why I needed these over some of the other models. But ultimately, I needed these for kind of general music listening, something for the commute that had or provided a lot of isolation, something that I could use for the gym, for out for a jog, as well as something that I could use well enough for a front of house live mixing maybe, as well as some studio tracking and recording. And the only thing I can really compare it to in terms of other popular universal monitors would be the Shure SE series. So that'd be the 215s, the 425s, and the 535s. And most recently, the Westone Pro 20s. And so I'll kind of discuss that in a bit, and which I think these closest sound to. It's worth noting that these are my first custom in-ear monitors. So I went through the whole experience of getting ear impressions at the audiologist, as well as sending them in and all that stuff. There's a ton of videos out there that explain that, so I won't go into that. Other than the process was incredibly smooth. I got them to Alclair. Took roughly about 6 to 7 weeks from when they received my impressions to actually receiving these Versas in my hand and in my ears. So that's kind of that. The specs, again, you can find on the website. These are dual drivers. They feature a single bore. They come stock standard with the black cable. And as you see here, I do have the clear cable from Alclair. I did include in my notes with my order originally if I could swap the black with the clear. Unfortunately, they didn't acquiesce to that request, or did they even acknowledge it really. So actually, when I received my monitors for the first time, I actually placed another order for the clear cable, just because I prefer that look. It's kind of however you want to do it. But with that said, these are kind of a no frills. You're not allowed to send in a design or ask for a particular color with these. They come stock clear with a black cable. Otherwise, they come with a soft case and an ear cleaning tool, and that's it. It's bare bones, and I think it's appropriate for the price. So that's kind of what you get, and you can check out the website for more information on that. Now, I think the number one reason that you are viewing this video, or why you're probably here and why I wanted to make this video, is because you're probably asking, what do the Versas sound like in terms of sound signature, their frequency response? And really, if I had to give any kind of a blanket statement or a summary with these, they're a great overall jack of all trades. They're not really special for any particular frequency. They're just kind of great for everything. And to kind of summarize that, as the website says, there's a big boost in the lows, and I think by lows I mean kind of the low mids to lows, not the subs, unfortunately. So the sub bass is there. It's not as prevalent as it is with the low mids. And if I had to unscientifically express that, it would maybe be anywhere from the 150 kilohertz range, 150 hertz range to 500 hertz maybe. So low mids. And then the other thing is that I think that these are a little rolled off in the highs. So you're not going to get a ton of sub bass, you're not going to get a ton of high end. With that said, I believe these are kind of a scooped frequency response, and so there is, I think, a little dip when you hit the 900, 1K, 2K range. But then again, there's a boost in maybe 4, 5, 6 kilohertz, so you do get presence of the vocal on the kind of the top end of the high mids. And you can kind of see the graph in which Alclair describes it. But it's kind of a roller coaster frequency response, if I had to pick another way to describe it. not a ton of sub bass, a large boost in the low mids, a little dip in the 900 1K 2K range maybe, and then again it goes back up with 4 5 6K, and then it goes back down again with the rest of the spectrum, the high end. And so it's kind of, again, to summarize it, it's a little bit of a scooped IEM, neutral to scooped IEM with a little bit of sub bass and kind of a high cut sound signature. So if you're craving a ton of high end and sub bass, it probably isn't for you. I know they kind of advertise and show that there is a boost in the low end, and again, I think what they mean by that is kind of the punchiness and the rounded woodiness of a lot of tracks and records, but not a ton of sub or the feeling frequencies, stuff that really hits you. And so it's kind of a jack of all trades. But because I think there are no, or because I think there's not a ton of high end as much as you might think, they're really great to listen to for a long period of time. And so I've listened to these for maybe 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, just because there's not a lot of harshness to them. There's not a lot of frequencies that fatigue your ears, and so I think that's really great. And really, if I had to compare these to what I had mentioned earlier of what I've used before in terms of universals, the closest model I think I could compare these to might be the Shure Series SE215s. I know it's not comparing apples to apples, but I think because the Shure SE215s, if you've ever used them, are similar in that there's a lot of low end. There's a huge boost in low end on the 215s, not necessarily subs, but low mids, as well as a boost in kind of the upper mids in the 6K range. And something that kind of bothered me about the 215s was I think the upper mids were a little too pronounced, and so I got tired of listening to those when I was listening to the 215s for long periods of time. Again, they're not directly, or you shouldn't compare them directly because they're different. The 215s are dynamic coil drivers as against the Versas, which are balanced armatures. And so out of the four, the Versas are probably closest to 215s against the other three that I mentioned before. So it's similar to that sound kind of character, if that's what you're into. So that's how I'll describe it. I've had these about 3-4 weeks now, and I'm confident that's kind of the signature sound with the Versas. Who I think it's great for. I think it's great for, like myself, just as someone who's the average listener, just listens to music every day on their iPhone, iPod, laptop, and whatnot. They're great for someone who's getting into the custom game for the first time. Because of the price point, I think the Versas make a great backup pair in terms of build quality and isolation, and I'd say you could use them for general front of house listening. They're overall great, again, jack of all trades kind of a thing. What I think it's not best for, or what it doesn't do necessarily the best, is if you're playing live, if you're a live performer and you're on tour, you're constantly playing with the need for custom monitors such as these, they don't offer such a great mid-range. So if you need the vocal, you need the guitar, you need the keyboard in the front of your mix, these probably are not going to do it for you. You might want to explore other models that Alclair offers, or look at other companies that offer such a sound signature, because these are a little scooped. They don't offer the clarity I think that other models do. So that's who I don't think it's best for. The genres that I think it's kind of cool for, that I think it best represents to my ears, are any live records, anything that's kind of natural sounding, stuff like genres like jazz, most country, really tunes or records that aren't super bass heavy, including sub bass and kind of the low mids. Again, because these boost the heck out of the low mids, so you probably don't want too much of that. I've noticed that the female vocals, I think, are great for this, displayed on the verses. I listen to a lot of artists and bands that feature front women, so I think that's really cool that they're presented in more of a in the front, kind of in terms of frequency. What I don't think they're great at, although it sounds good, I don't think they're best for genres like trance, other forms of EDM or electronic music that do offer a ton of sub bass, a ton of high end, and all the stuff in between, as well as hip hop. You're not gonna feel the 808s and the subs as well as other models could reproduce. Other sounds like hi-hats and other things like that. You won't get that extended high end or low end with the verses, so that's something I think you should consider, although it does sound good. There are other models that I think that would boost those frequencies better. I'll just kind of name off some records that I've been jamming that I think sound best with the verses. Good old Fleetwood Mac with their Rumors record. Diana Krall, Live in Paris, a great jazz record. Julian Lage with his record Arclight. Where the Light Is with one of my favorites, John Mayer. Haim record Days Are Gone. You get a lot of cool punchy bass lines in there. Kimbra with the Golden Echo. A lot of, again, funky bass, cool funk guitar, and other licks like that are well represented with the verses, as well as Bruno Mars's recent 24 Karat Magic record. You get a lot of the cool punchy bass, rounded woodsy bass, as well as a lot of lush synths, for lack of a better term, but it's another cool and full sounding record with the verses. And really, I'd probably give this set a good 9 out of 10. I can't really think of why I would give it a 10 out of 10, but I can't fault it for any reason other than that. It's great for what it is. The price point is really attainable. I believe it's $249 at the time of this recording. I know they're having a sale as well. You should probably check that out. Alclair does have sales once or twice a year. But with the cost of impressions, with the entry level of the verses, the entry level price point of the verses, I think it's really great relatively. So I really can't knock it. One of the only things I would say, it wasn't a deal breaker at all, it's more of just an observation, would be that if you can see here, my name or my first initial and last name along with the date that I ordered these are placed in the shell, but they're printed on a sticker and placed inside the shell. I don't think anything will happen to that sticker. I just feel like compared to other brands that either stamp it or laser it or whatever they do, they actually apply it to the actual shell, so it looks a little more seamless, I guess might be the word. But I just think the sticker is a little I don't think cheap's the word, but it doesn't seem as solid maybe as other brands I had been expecting with my name and date. But again, it's minutia at this point, so that's something I had observed, but I really can't fault this for being anything that it's not. Low entry point. Again, no frills. It's clear. It comes with a black cable, stock. Not a ton of sub bass. A boost in the lows, scooped in the mids a little bit, a little bump in the higher mids, and then it drops off at the high end. And so that's kind of how I'd summarize it. But again, these are great. I'm sure I missed a couple things that I wanted to talk about. But if you have any questions in terms of the impressions, in terms of customer service, or anything that I'd missed, please leave a comment. I'd love to discuss or make a discussion about this, because I think this is an incredibly great value for the price, and it's been out for a couple years now, I believe. And so a lot of people have been talking about it, but no one's really been talking about it, if you know what I mean, in terms of the sound signature and things of that nature. So thanks again for listening. Leave a comment. Love to talk about this some more. If you like what you see, hit that like button. Otherwise, thank you again so much for listening. If this helps your decision of whether to get the verses or not, I'm glad to hear it. But let me know either way. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.